It's Eric from foundersbeta.com, and I'm so excited to have Zohaib from Badal. Thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about the company and what it does?
Yeah, so Badal is a Google Cloud Premier partner. To shortcut, what that essentially means is we onboard clients onto GCP, and we're a system integrator. So essentially, our team is built with expertise in GCP, and so when our clients come in and they have integration issues or big projects that they're trying to figure out how to leverage GCP in a good way, secure way, all that jazz, we come in and help provide that expertise.
Sounds good. So how did this idea even come about?
Good question. So I come with a background of software engineering. I went to school for that, university for that, in which eventually I went to systems networking. And so for a long time, I was doing some support in the Toronto ecosystem, the startup world. I was providing DevOps as a service just by myself.
Right.
And I kind of saw a recurring pattern with a lot of the clients around the ever so growing usage of data. And Google happened to, in my opinion, have one of the strongest data products out there at the time,
Right.
specifically around BigQuery. And so I saw an opportunity in the market that was missing a gap. And so I kind of pursued, started first onboarding some of my close clients onto GCP, leveraging their data products like BigQuery, and then eventually looked into building partnership with Google directly, and kind of rest is a history.
That's great. So at what point, did you think that this startup could take off?
Good question. I didn't think about it that way.
Right.
I started the company more because I found an interesting kind of gap in the industry, and I found it interesting to work at that solution. So I one of the kind of motivation for me was, hey, let's build a company where I can have friends that work with me together, and we
Right.
solve problems that we're always solving.
Right.
And things kind of just evolve from there, and like as you go deeper down the rabbit hole, you find other things, other problems to solve. And specifically around COVID, when the market moved more to a remote work, gave us the capability to expand much faster.
Right. So speaking of working with friends and building team, what was it like building your team?
Challenging.
Right. Just like with any other startup, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think like the biggest thing is like your approach and your thought process, like how you disseminate that across down to the people that you hire. And so there's an aspect of building a culture, which is critical. Like engineering is one aspect. Like engineering, you can find people who can solve engineering problems. It's not complicated, to be honest. The harder problem is, how do you promote your message in the consulting world? How do you get your team to promote that similar thought process, thought leadership, and message? So that is challenging, and a lot of that has to do with mentorship. A lot of that has to do with spending time with my teams as much as possible, even though it's getting much more limited for me at this stage of our size. I've tried to do that as best as possible, and then you find leaders in your company that help you expand that message, right? So culture, I would say, is like a very critical component of that, and that's how you get your vision across, especially in the consulting world.
Right on. Culture is such a key for sure. So talk about like what do you look for in your new team members?
Good. It really depends on kind of like what role they're trying to fill.
Oh, okay.
I would say like so I would say like the most important thing for me is definitely like, are we able to work together? Are we able to have a communication together?
Right.
Do we have that capability of like taking criticism and providing criticism just as much? Critical criticism, obviously, not like, I'm not saying like anything negative, but like I think like those are things that it's sometimes hard to do that too, but for a good portion of it, I've been able to, at least the team has been able to cultivate that really successfully. And then the second thing for me, the most important thing is growth. Are you looking for new challenges, new problems? Like you're never going to be consistently, especially in the consulting world, you're never going to be stuck in the same kind of framework. There's always something. Are you able to solve that problem? And that, I think those two principles are pretty critical.
Right on. So do you have any tips or people interested in working at your company when applying, especially for technical roles? Any tips that may stand out?
Yeah, sure. I think it can't be said enough. Like we don't sometimes do this, but like to me, like if you have a portfolio of anything, it doesn't have to be like you're applying for DevOps. You
Right.
don't have to have DevOps specific, but some kind of portfolio to demonstrate, hey, I did this or I did that. And then to me, that speaks volumes because that's that second part of the equation, which is problem solving. Like, are you able to solve a problem? Even if it's not in the industry, you can demonstrate that. That
Mhm.
is invaluable to me. That's invaluable to anybody.
Right.
So like I think that puts you leaps and bounds above anybody. And in terms of the cultural aspect of it, that's just a conversation we have. That you
Right.
can pick up with the conversation quite quickly.
Right. Right. Talk about talk about onboarding. Like when you bring on a new team member, like with everything remote, do you have any tips for founders that are managing their teams remotely that works well maybe for your team?
Oh, I don't know. I need tips too. um, we're okay. So we're building this more. I think like one of the struggling point for working remotely is definitely the onboarding aspect in terms of, hey, where do I start? What do I do? What's my
Right.
repository of information? Where do I pick
Mhm.
up?
Mhm.
And then more importantly, like the culture aspect becomes very complicated. Like how do I communicate what our values are and things of that nature?
Right. Right.
I'll be quite honest, we're working through it. We've been
Mm.
lucky in the sense that like some of the things we do to help with that is
Mhm.
fly the team together when we have Christmas events and our summer events. Like, when we have other events, we try to fly,
Right.
build that bond and relationship. In
Mhm.
terms of onboarding, we try to do like pair up with someone who's been in the company for a while.
Right.
That way you're working closely together. You guys can kind of tackle things together and stuff like that. So it's a mix of both.
Right.
Um, and so it's a continuous learning process for us too. We always look for feedback from our teams and stuff. We try to do as much events as possible, like quarterly events, things of that nature.
Right.
Even
Right.
if it's remote, we'll do remote events. For me personally, it's like, can I fly the team? Even because we have huge presence in the Toronto area, but we
Yeah.
have Quebec, Vancouver, Alberta, PEI, folks across kind of like Canada. So one of the big things for me is at least once a year or twice a year, I want to
Mm.
fly everybody in and then get to
Right.
hang out together and build that
Right.
bond.
That's incredible. Great tips for founders. Talk about the traction with your company. How's the traction been? Of course, we've been following your story very closely, but anything you can share with us in terms of your traction and how the growth has been?
Yeah, we've kind of gone through a hyper growth. So Badal officially started in 2019. Our first contract was around end of 2019, so around September. Like it was the first official big enterprise contract. And
Hmm.
so it was myself and two other people at that time, or three other people. COVID kind of slowed us down, but tail end of COVID we picked up. I think we were around 2021 somewhere we're at 10, and now we're at 2022 or 2022 we're like 67 plus. So we've had a
Wow.
hyper growth. And part of that is because just the trends and where the market is heading towards, right? Like
Right.
data, we
Right.
focus heavily on the data side, and companies, big enterprise, trying to leverage their data and make themselves more efficient makes a lot of sense. We focus a lot on cloud migrations, and those are cost optimization exercise, so it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So in terms of growth, I think even though economic times are kind of rough right now, we're kind of headed in the opposite direction for most places. We're hiring
Hmm.
versus versus cutting any staff. We need more
Right.
people. So traction has been pretty positive, and
Hmm.
part of that is a lot to do with the amazing work that the folks in Badal have done, and the credibility, the skill set, the dedication that comes with this type of engagement.
Right on. So, what's next? Any exciting thing maybe ahead you're looking forward to in 2023?
Yeah, so one of the main focuses for me, like when I started company, was to be more product focused, and consulting was a pathway for that, to be honest. And I love consulting. I love providing, enterprise change management processes and like,
Right.
really shifted the way an enterprise thinks. But I also wanted to see what we can do on the product side. So next
Right.
year, one of our focuses is opening up a dedicated R&D solution slash product division.
Right.
We have the largest clients in the Canadian market space, all the big banks,
Right.
telcos, retail. They're our clients, and we see huge gaps in some of the things that they're trying to solve. And so
Right.
consulting gives us the avenue to learn and understand these problems, and the product will help us alleviate and help our customers solve those problems. So we have a couple of ideas on things that we think would be invaluable that are missing gaps. And so we want to build those out and dedicate teams. And so 2023, that's going to be a major focus for us.
Nice.
Doing that. And then the second thing probably is growth. We have a lot of more growth opportunities in some of the other emerging markets, or like
Right.
even like around a couple of other divisions within consulting. So we might do some investment in those sides too.
Exciting stuff. What is one piece of advice that you have for founders? We know building a startup is incredibly hard, and what is one piece of advice that help you continue to build up on your success?
Good question. Multiple things. I would say one thing is don't get drowned in the ocean. Like it's great building a business, but like you need something to keep you human. And so find that aspect. For me, it's like outdoor activities, like
Right.
rock climbing and mountaineering, things like that keep me grounded of why I'm doing what I'm doing. My family is critical for me. Like those things are critical, I think. Like try to know differentiation, because you will be in the ocean of like the business. There's billions of things you can do, billion strategies. Your brain's always working. So try to find a way to de-stress and deflate.
Right.
I think that's like critical to be successful, because your health is just as critical to the business as anything else.
Right.
So I think that's like my number one advice. So make sure you do that. And the second one is you're gonna have hard times no matter what. That's just part of the game.
Right.
And so talking to other founders who've gone through it, actually, I find like extremely invaluable.
Right.
And even if they're not trying to give you direct answers, their experiences will kind of guide you in terms of, hey, they've seen this, or, and, provide you feedback and stuff. So
Right.
I have friends who've gone through similar journeys, and like they play a critical role in just keeping me sane and making sure I'm going the right path or providing support, whatever that is. Good support structure is good.
Absolutely. So where can our audience learn more? If they want to apply for a role, or they want to learn, where can they go?
Absolutely. You can go to our website, badal.io, badal.io. I think we're going through update transitions on that. You can reach out careers@badal.io as well, and you'll probably get connected with our HR staff, Bridget. And likewise, and other thing is we usually advertise a bunch of meetups. So we've hosted a couple of meetups, which we also advertise on our LinkedIn. So if you have an opportunity, you want to kind of meet the team and stuff, we usually have pretty big turnouts there. Food and drinks are provided. So maybe one of the meetup sessions would be a good place to also get together and hang out with us.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come out today. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to your development.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Eric.